Thank you once again, Sir Chris, for the introduction. Again, hello everyone. It's me again. I hope you are enjoying and learning from the workshops that we prepared for all of you. So this workshop will be focused on the Safe Exam Browser feature and how it works in Moodle LMS. So let me just share my screen with you. And also, I'll just turn off my camera as I'm experiencing technical difficulties with my laptop. So please bear with me. Thank you. Right, so I hope you can see my screen now. So this is the course for the Safe Exam Browser workshop. So same with the other courses, we have Introduce Yourself Forum, some learning outcomes, the course presentation, Q&A forum, as well as the feedback. For the presentation of this workshop, let me just open this Safe Exam Browser presentation. Okay, and let me enter full screen. Okay, so for the objectives of this topic are, at the end of this presentation, participants should be able to learn and understand how Safe Exam Browser works, configure the Moodle quiz to use Safe Exam Browser, and set up templates for Safe Exam Browser in the site administration settings. So what is Safe Exam Browser? Safe Exam Browser, SEB or SEB, is a web browser environment to carry out e-assessments safely. The software turns any computer temporarily into a secure workstation. It controls access to resources like system functions, other websites and applications, and prevents unauthorized resources from being used during the exam. SEB is now integrated into the quiz activity from Moodle 3.9 onwards. For the scope and functionality of SEB or SEB, so SEB is a customized web browser available for Windows, specifically for versions 8.1, 10, and the new version of Windows, which is 11. Then for Mac OS, limited support starting 10.11 to 12. Recommended version is 10.11 or newer. And for iOS or iPad OS is 11 and newer. SEB is currently, please take note of this, SEB is currently not available for Chromebooks and Android devices. So if ever you find an APK for Android, we advise you to not install it because SEB will surely not work. And the application must be, SEB application must be downloaded and installed on the device that the student uses to attempt the quiz. For the scope and functionality, students will only be able to attempt the quiz if they are using SEB. No URL or search field, and back or forward navigation. So the browser window won't have a URL or search field and back or forward navigation, and reload can be disabled. Safe Exam Browser cannot be closed until the exam or test is submitted. Switching to other applications is disabled by default, but it's possible to allow the use specific third-party applications during an exam. Shortcut keys such as Win plus Tab, Alt Tab, Control Alt Delete, Alt F4, Print Screen, Command Tab are disabled or cannot be used to close the Safe Exam browser or to switch to other user accounts on the computer. The possibility of taking screenshots is also disabled. Next slide are also this functionality of SEB. So the clipboard is cleared when starting and quitting the Safe Exam browser. The browser context menu is disabled. Specific websites or pages, resources can be configured to be accessible during an exam. So using the URL filter. Spell checking and dictionary lookup is disabled, but can optionally be allowed. Next slide is the latest versions for Safe Exam browser. So SEB for Windows, the latest version of SEB is version 3.3.2. Version 3.3.2 adds a new JavaScript API to query the browser exam key and config key. That improves the optional SEB server integration, which needs to be individually configured and is newer enabled by default, and fixes various issues. So the most prominent new features and changes are, first, they implemented the JavaScript API to again query the browser exam key and configuration key. They extended the permissive configuration for configuration resources which require authentication. They fixed bug where file system dialog failed to load network paths, and also they updated the browser engine to version 97.1.11. For SEB for Mac OS, the latest version of SEB for Mac OS is version 3.1. SEB 3.1 improves support for the modern WebKit browser engine and for accessibility or voiceover. They add text search in browser windows and many stability improvements. Also new is the optional support for SEB server for easy configuration and monitoring of exam clients. And for iOS or iPad OS, the latest version of SEB is version 3.1 as well. SEB 3.1 for iOS is an important stability update, importing support for the modern WebKit browser engine, also adding the page zoom, adding text search on web pages, and improvements for the optional SEB server integration, which is disabled by default. So please, this is the important note from the SEB. So the developers of SEB announced that they will no longer provide outdated SEB versions for download. They will only support the latest SEB version, and all older versions of SEB will be removed after a grace period. So for our dear participants who use SEB for exams, it's advisable to adjust your process accordingly and to always keep your exam environment up to date. Okay. So next is using the Safe Exam browser with Moodle. So SEB support in Moodle has three objectives. First is to don't display any links during an exam, which would allow to navigate to other sections of Moodle or even other websites. So this means the course navigation, link to the user's Moodle profile, log out, link to the site homepage, etc., needs to be disabled or hidden. Only the quiz navigation to navigate to other questions and the finish attempt button link should be visible. Second is make sure a quiz can only be taken using Safe Exam browser. It display an error message if trying to open the quiz in another web browser. And lastly is to check if legitimate SEB settings or optionally if the correct version of SEB are used. So Safe Exam Browser is directly available in Moodle's quiz activity or quiz settings from 3.9 onwards. There is also an available plugin for older versions of Moodle, such as 3.7 and 3.8. So you may check them in the Moodle plugins directory. So now for a quick demo. So let me show you how to set up the Safe Exam browser in a quiz activity. So I'll just use this MoodPH22 site and this same course. So I'll just go to this tab. And then from here, since we're using the latest Moodle version, the Moodle 4.0, so I will just turn on the editing mode from the upper right corner of the page. So to enable the SEB, again, you have to go to your course and create a quiz activity that you want to enable students to take an attempt with the Safe Exam browser. So from this course, I will add or insert the quiz under the final section of this course. I'll just add it here after the feedback activity and I'll delete it later. So from the add an activity or resource page, just select or choose the quiz activity. So quiz activity. Okay, so quiz. And then from this page, adding a new quiz to the topic section, make sure to click the expand all so that all settings will be shown. So for the general settings, you just need to set up the general settings of this quiz, such as supplying the quiz name. So for example, sample quiz. So I won't put the description and other details. I'll just add the required fields. And then you have to scroll down until the Safe Exam browser settings. Yeah, so please bear with me, sorry. And then Safe Exam browser. Scroll down until see the Safe Exam browser. So here, and so after the settings for Safe Exam browser is after the so after the appearance settings. So for the first setting of Safe Exam browser or SEB is to require the use of Safe Exam browser. So by default, the Safe Exam browser is disabled. But if you wish to enable this quiz for your students to attempt the quiz using Safe Exam browser, so make sure to enable the use of Safe Exam browser. So here, from the drop-down list, we have these options. First is no, and then yes. So if no, Safe Exam browser is not required to attempt the quiz. If yes, and configure manually, no template for the configuration of SEB will be used. So you can configure the SEB manually. And then for the third option, yes, upload my own config. You can upload your own Safe Exam browser configuration file. All manual settings and the use of templates will be disabled. And then for the last option is use SEB client config. So no configurations of SEB are on Moodle side. The quiz can be attempted with any configuration of SEB. So you hand the SEB config file over to students by other means like you did with Moodle 3.8 versions or lower versions of Moodle. And we have additional option, which is yes, use an existing template, is only shown when there are really templates to choose from. So if no administrator or manager has uploaded any template and set at least one to enable, and the option is not shown. So for this demo, I will select the second option, which is yes, configure manually. So once you have selected the second option, all other settings will be shown. So here we have the Show Safe Exam Browser download button. So here you can set whether a button for SEB download will be shown on the quiz start page. This can only be set if the required use of Safe Exam Browser is set to yes. And next, of course, we will select yes for this setting. And then next is the Show Exit Safe Exam Browser button configured with this quit link. So in the according field, you can enter a link to quit Safe Exam Browser. So it will be used on an Exit Safe Exam Browser button on the page that appears after the exam is submitted. Clicking the button or a link to the same URL, place wherever you want to put it. It is possible to quit Safe Exam Browser without having to enter a quit password. So if the field is left empty, then the Exit Safe Exam Browser button does not appear and there is no link set to quit SEB. So this can only be set if the first setting, required use of Safe Exam Browser, is set to yes, configure manually. And for the fourth setting is ask user to confirm quitting. So if enabled, users have to confirm quitting of Safe Exam Browser when a quit link is detected. So note this setting does just affect quitting with the quit link and doesn't affect quitting with the quit button. The control Q or the close button in the main browser window, and this can only be set if, of course, the required use of Safe Exam Browser is set to configure manually. And we have here enable quitting of SEB. So here you can set whether users can quit Safe Exam Browser with the quit button in the Safe Exam Browser taskbar or by pressing the keys Control Q or by clicking the main browser window close button. And then for the quit password, here it is possible to provide a password which is prompted when the users try to quit Safe Exam Browser with the quit button, Control Q or the close button in the main browser window. So if no quit password is set, then the Safe Exam Browser just prompts the message, are you sure you want to quit Safe Exam Browser? And this can only be, again, set if the Safe Exam Browser is enabled. Okay, so you can put here the password for this quiz. And then the enable reload in exam. So users this is used to allowing page reload during a quiz. So the reload button in Safe Exam Browser taskbar, browser toolbar, iOS side slide menu, keyboard shortcut, the F5 or the command plus R. Offline caching might break when the user tries to reload a page without internet connection. So yeah, and then this can only be set if the Safe Exam browser is enabled. For the show SEB taskbar, so here you can set whether users are shown the SEB taskbar. And then for show reload button, set whether users are shown the reload user interface element in the taskbar bottom right corner. And then for show time, you can set whether users are shown an element in the taskbar with the current time. And for show keyboard layout, here you can set whether users are shown an element in the taskbar to choose the keyboard layout. And then for the show Wi-Fi control, you can set here whether users are shown the element of the taskbar to choose the Wi-Fi connection. Then enable audio controls. So by default, they are disabled. So here you can set whether users are shown an element in the taskbar to change the audio volume. And for spell checking, you can enable this feature. And lastly is the enable URL filtering. So here you can set whether URL filtering is enabled in Safe Exam browser. So these are my settings or set up for the quiz that sample quiz that I have created. So once you're done configuring the Safe Exam browser, so just save this quiz. So let me just save and display. So once done with setting up the SEB, students are offered some choices. So they can, depending on my settings, on the settings that I've set up, either they can download the Safe Exam browser. So this button redirects to the configure download location for Safe Exam browser. So the next button will be the launch the Safe Exam browser, which applies the settings and sends the students to the quiz starting page. So note that the launch Safe Exam browser buttons to start the quiz in Safe Exam browser from another browser works with Safe Exam browser 3.0.1 for Windows and SEB 2.1.5 for Mac OS onwards only. So for other Safe Exam browser versions, you can use the download configuration and then open the downloaded config file, which will start Safe Exam browser into the quiz. And then we have another button, download the Safe Exam browser configuration file like this one. And then the last button will be the return or back to the Moodle course. Okay, so that will be the setup for the sample or the Safe Exam browser. And then next is the site administrators can manage the SEB configuration templates. So here, let me show you how to view the templates for Safe Exam browser. So from the site administration settings, click Plugins tab. And then from the Plugins tab, scroll down until you find the Safe Exam browser templates under the activity modules. Okay, so let me just scroll down and find the Safe Exam browser templates under the quiz and then activity modules. Okay, save exam browser. Okay, so here quiz and then click the Save Exam Browser templates. So from this page, you can see nothing to display. There are no available templates yet here on this LMS site. So to create or add a new template, just click this Add a New Template button and supply the required fields such as the name of the template and the description is optional. And for the template, this is required. You have to upload the template from your local SEB configuration tool. And after that, you can select yes if you want the template to appear as a choice option in the quiz activity. Okay, so by default, the template is enabled. Okay, so once done, you supply the name, uploaded the template, and enable this template. So click the Save Changes button. So I don't have any configuration file on this computer, but the Safe Exam Browser website, they have the sample templates and they have settings on how to configure the Safe Exam Browser tool on your devices. Okay. So some examples of sub templates are quiz with audio controls on, muted quiz, quiz without timer display, quiz with Zoom application for virtual proctoring, and then quiz with an open calculator, and many more. So let's go back to the Safe Exam Browser presentation. Okay, so that's all for the Safe Exam Browser presentation. Thank you for listening. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat box or post your questions in the open discussion forum of the course. Thank you again and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you so much, Ms. Laurie, and thank you everyone for staying with us right until the end. If there are any outstanding questions right now, I would appreciate if you share it with us. There's been a couple of questions that Ms. Aida has helped answer, but let me just recap.
Sir, I have questions.
Yeah, Sir Jonathan, please go ahead.
Do I need to install every workstation for the same once they already have a plugin to the Moodle?
Yes, if I understand correctly, sir, is it necessary to install the Safe Exam browser or on every station?
So,
The
yes,
answer,
sir. It is necessary to install per workstation the same application.
yes, sir, that is correct. The Safe Exam browser is an application, a desktop application that should be installed in every computer where the student is going to take the exam.
And they, so as well as the Moodle application or the Moodle system, just we enable plugins for the safe browser plugins.
You mean a plugin?
Because they already a plugin for the LMS model, yes, sir.
Yeah, well, actually, to use Safe Exam browser right now, it is not necessary to install a plugin if you are using a recent version of Moodle, that is Moodle 3.9 or Moodle 4. They already have the Safe Exam browser enabled.
Okay. So as long as you have 3.9 or a 4 version for the model, so they already add on the plugins for the safe browser.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
I would just like to clarify something. So if your LMS site is currently in older versions of Moodle, such as 3.8 below, so you need to install the plugin for Safe Exam Browser. And if your LMS site is in Moodle 3.9 onwards, you don't need to install the plugin since the SEB is integrated into the quiz activity.
So if
Thank you.
3.8 below, so you need to install the plugin.
Yes,
While
sir.
3.9 above, so it's already in the plugin. It's already add-on on the model.
Yes, it's already integrated in Moodle 3.9 onwards.
Aside from the plugins, so this is for clarification for the plugins. So for the plugins for the model, so we need to install at the same time every workstation, the same software.
All right. Yes, another question that we saw before is if Moodle Safe Exam Browser is available on mobile devices. And unfortunately, the answer is no. However, there is a number of options if you like to have some safe solution, maybe proctoring using a mobile device. It really depends on every circumstance, on every case, and you may require an additional service. So we invite you, if you have any questions to that extent, to request a free consultation with us. We'll leave the email below, sales@nefilaweb.com.ph. And we'll be happy to provide a solution that might work for your specific case, such as mobile access to a safe exam environment. Sir Alban asks if we are able to provide a demo or to show how a quiz on the safe exam browser would look like. I'm not sure if that is available at this time, but I believe the difference is very minimal. You will see that the browser has some differences to a standard browser, which were addressed at the beginning. You cannot use the right button, right click on your mouse. There is no context menu. There is no clipboard. There is no back button. But other than that, the interface should look just like a Moodle quiz, if I'm correct. Ms. Jennifer asks, what if the learner disconnects while taking the test? How will they go back? Is it from the current exam or should go back from the start? If you can help me with this question, Ms. Laurie, but my understanding is that the pause and resume features of a quiz, they depend on the Moodle configuration. And it is actually recommended, for example, if you have a long exam, to apply pagination. So only one question appears per page. So the student would only be focusing on one question at a time, and then enable save in the middle of the quiz. So whenever the student answers the question and click next to the next page, all the previous answers have been saved. And that is a Moodle feature more than a safe exam browser, but it should apply the same. I don't know if you have something to add, Ms. Laurie?
Yes, that's actually correct. So if ever the student disconnect to the while using the Safe Exam browser, so it's best to restart the, of course, the Wi-Fi connection and to go back to the Moodle LMS and attempt again the quiz.
Correct. So this is a little beyond the scope. Of course, it's important to consider the Moodle settings before setting up the Safe Exam browser. And again, any kind of questions of this kind, we're happy to provide free consultations for anyone attending the Moodle Mood premium session today. All right, well, thank you again. Ms. Laurie, do we have a certificate to show here? Before we move on to our final session. Okay, so Ms. Laurie, Nefila would like to present you with the certificate of appreciation to you, Ms. Laurie Gallo, for sharing your invaluable knowledge and experience to all the participants 2022. On this day, July 27, 2022. And again, everyone who's joining us all day will also receive a certificate of participation. And